On the latest episode of the PCT podcast, we're absolutely delighted to have the opportunity to speak to yet another professional, and this time in the form of Nathan Heaney. I'm very excited for the conversation ahead, so let's get stuck in. Good afternoon, Nathan. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you, mate. Cheers for having me on. I'm looking forward to obviously speaking to you.
Fantastic. It's an absolute privilege to be able to speak to you today, and I just want to start off by thanking you for giving us some of your time, and I appreciate it's quite precious with your training, and something which we'll delve into later. We've just come out of the other side of Christmas and straight into a national lockdown. How has that affected you in your training?
At first, the original lockdown itself wasn't that bad at first, because my last fight was essentially March the 13th, which is I think a week before the first national lockdown happened. So normally I have a nice little break in between fights. Anyway, so I always train, but a break in between them is probably 3 months since I have my next fight. So like I was thinking, well, with a break, I might have 4 months between the fights, but we'll be back soon enough. So I kept training, motivated, blah, blah, blah. But then all of a sudden, just started going a little bit longer, then a little bit longer. And then I was obviously speaking to Frank Warren because I got signed by them during the lockdown. And I said to them, I want to wait till the crowds are coming back, because I was thinking October time, football crowds are going to come back. Well, that's what they would talk about anyway. So I was like thinking, great. Well, I'm going to wait for my crowd. I don't mind that. So they scheduled their shows thinking I was going to be on for the crowd. And then it just completely stopped. And they said, no crowds whatsoever. So Frank Warren put me on the back burner because he thought, well, he wants to wait for the crowds. And in the end, I said, no. I want to fight now. I want my crowd there because it's amazing. They're incredible. But I also need to fight as well. So they've been trying to get me on since the restrictions. I wouldn't say it's a lockdown, because even though we can't eat out shops, the roads in that feel busy as ever. Like there's no difference. Like the first one was weird. I'd go for a run down where I live, and the roads would be dead. Where now it's no different. But anyway, so they were trying to get me on some shows, but then December there was a show that was meant to happen 19th of December, but it never went ahead. So we keep training, keep doing this, keep doing that. But there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And now I have been told I'm going to be fighting on one of the early BT Sports shows of this year. So, yeah, it's weird really, but it's gone very quick. I can't believe how quick it's gone.
I mean, it's something that we'll delve into later, obviously being signed. But one thing I wanted to get at, you've gone from quite an intense sort of routine, and, you just saying you're coming off the back of a fight, which, and again, we'll touch on later. Has it been hard to keep yourself motivated at all then, knowing that these restrictions have constantly pushed things back?
Yeah, motivation. Yeah, I always train. I always work hard at the sports. I always do. Like even when I was a bloody amateur, I lived as though I was like a professional athlete. The way I've always done it. But what does make it hard is if you haven't got an opponent lined up, and so on. Those early morning runs, or the hard work that you need to do, you can sort of make an excuse to not do it. Oh, I'm not fighting for 3 months, so I don't need to do this session today. Whereas when you know there's a guy on the end of an 8-week block that's going to smash your head in, that sort of self-motivates. But motivation's weird. Motivation lasts about a week. Motivation does. It's not. You can't always be motivated. You just got to work hard, knowing that you got an objective and work towards that. Anyway, motivation probably lasts like 10 minutes for me, but it's knowing that I need to work hard in order to achieve what I want to do. So it's the goals that keep me going more than anything, really.
For anybody that might not be aware of what it is you're doing, obviously you're in the profession of boxing. I want to get into how you got into that. For those that know, obviously a massive Stoke City fan and proudly showing the badge off on the call here, one would assume a massive football. What age did your interest in boxing begin?
So I was boxing from a very early age. My dad was a former amateur boxer himself. He had like 50 fights. So from when I could walk, I've always been involved in boxing in some way. I went to the gym when I was 9 years old, and I had my first competition at the age of 11, and then boxed every single year up until I retired. I think it was 26 and 20. I was 26 when I retired from amateur boxing. But I was always made to go boxing. I enjoyed it, but my dad made me go. But when it did turn around for me, because I always wanted to be a footballer. That's what I wanted to become, more than a boxer. And then I think about the age of 16, 17, I was doing okay at football, but I don't think I was ever going to get signed. And then I watched this guy called Frankie Gavin, who was the first ever world amateur champion that we had from this country. and I saw him win the gold medal for Great Britain. I was thinking, that's what I want to do. I think I was about 18 at the time, 17 or 18. I thought, that's what I want to fight for my country, and I want to do this and do that. And then it just became like, I really wanted to fight for my country. That's what I wanted to do. And then obviously the objective in the end was to win the national title and get signed by Frank Warren, essentially. I never won the national title. So really, I was never going to get signed by Frank Warren. So I just retired at the age of 26. I had a teaching career, which I've still got now. My little girl was born. And yeah, it saw me life went in a different direction. And then yeah, just yeah. And that's pretty much it in terms of my early age boxing.
So you mentioned there it was somebody that you saw that sort of sparked that interest. Was there then a decision to be made in terms of, I enjoy the game of football, but I'm going to focus on this because I think this is where I could succeed? Yeah,
so before all my focus on football, my focus completely went to boxing then, completely. I always did the two together. I always used to use football as a way to be fit for boxing, but I wasn't good enough to be a footballer. I was okay as a footballer. I had good attributes, but I was always very small. I was a small lad, so that was always going to go against me, especially as like a young teen. I just wasn't big enough. Like I was like a late bloomer really, so I grew loads when I was in like me 19 and early 20s really. But yeah, so then boxing became a complete focus, and then just me and my dad. My dad was my coach. I've had some great coaches throughout the years, Dave Buxton, Keith Nugent, and so on. But my dad was like one of my main coaches. And we always worked together at home and stuff. And that was always the goal. We wanted to win the national title, but it's easier said than done, really. But but we just did the best to do that, really.
You've alluded to there that, you've gone on and you're currently in the teaching profession. So 16, 18, all through your school years up until that point, how much emphasis did you put into getting yourself a good education as well as a sport, just in case your pathway didn't work out?
I never really, it's a bit weird that I'm a teacher now, but I never really enjoyed. I enjoyed being in school, but I was just too lazy. I was too lazy really in terms of doing the work and completing the work. So that's why it's a bit weird now me being a teacher, because I see the same students that I saw before. The student that I now see in the classroom. But I think that sort of gives me something. I can sort of empathise with the students themselves, know what they're thinking, how I can help them and stuff. But no, I was. My dad always made sure I had an education. Though it was always my dad that wanted me to either become a police officer or a teacher, or he wanted me to he always pushed me into education. And I'm glad he did, really, because if he didn't, I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I've had now in terms of becoming a teacher and so on. And I think as well, as a young amateur from the age of 18 to when I retired, a few years before that, I always saw it as a way to get out of essentially working. I was like, I need to do this so I can better my life. And there was that pressure on me in terms of doing that and becoming successful and not going the normal route. But when that sort of wasn't really happening, and then I got a proper career behind me, it's sort of taking that pressure off me. I don't need that anymore. Like the goal isn't financial for me now in boxing wise, although that's nice. That's not the goal with it, because I know no matter what happens with boxing, I've got something great to fall back on anyway that I'll be doing for a very long time. So that is good. That's good in that regard.
It's great to hear, and anybody sort of listening and who wants a career in any children's sport, I think that's an important message to them to get out, that you need something to fall back on just in case.
Yeah, I've seen boxers and stuff saying, "Oh, my teacher said I'd never do anything. I didn't get any GCSEs." But to achieve a lot in the sport, or to achieve a lot of financial freedom in the sport, is very, very hard. Even when you're in like the position I'm at, you don't get what you've seen with the Tyson Furies and the Joshua's. It's still hard graft, and you do have to have something to fall back on, because boxing, even for me now, it's a very short window of time that I'm in. What have I got? 2-3 years maybe if I do really well. And then after that, it's the end of the road, and then I'm back into doing full time what I do enjoy. But at least it's something decent that I'm in, should I say.
I mean, as we go through sort of your career pathway today, you mentioned as an amateur there, you took part in 90 fights and winning 58 of them. As you edged towards your 90 fights, was there ever a point of, is that big move coming? Is that big fight going to come in? or was it not going to work out?
No, as it went closer towards the 90 fights, I think I realised that it wasn't going to happen. Like, it was a bit weird. In amateur boxing, your face either fits or it doesn't. I beat some of the best kids in the country who all fought for Great Britain and England and stuff. And I just never really got me shot with it, like, which I should have had it really. I think it's just a servant to the sport for being in there for so long. But in the end, like, my nerves and everything were disappearing. Like, before a fight, I had no nerves whatsoever. Which to me, it's because I think my body just knew I'd be grafting rock hard in a fight, and I believe I'd be winning the fight. And then next minute, the decision wouldn't go my way. Now, we can all say we're robbed and all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying that, but a lot of decisions didn't go my way that they should have. And in the end, when your face hasn't fitted for a while in the sports, you're not gonna reach that GB squad and so on. It's just rock hard. So when I retired under the impression I was never going to box again. But I think it was only because, I think about the age of 20, only like probably say 7 months after finishing, I thought to myself, if I don't potentially turn over, because I was good enough to turn professional, if I didn't turn over, would I regret it? Because I had that window where I was 27 years old. And if I waited just a year or two later to do it, I'd be 29, and then that may be too late to do it. So I just ended up turning professional. Signed with BCB Promotions, who's a great Errol Johnson, who's still in manager now. Did some great work with me. It just built and built. And then eventually I ended up achieving my dream that I had the whole time. That was an amateur and getting signed by Frank Warren anyway. But I just had to do it the hard way and not the easy way. So, yeah.
That's an interesting concept that I want to delve into, if possible, is that, you've had these 90 fights and a mixture of, wins, losses, and you mentioned their frustrations along the way. How big a decision was it then, Nathan, to make that after so much dedication, commitment, and hours of training to get to say, maybe this isn't right now?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I can't even remember what I was thinking at the time. I just thought, that's it. It'd have been meant to get 100 fights, but that'd have been another year, and I'd just been going through the motions with it, knowing that I'm going to meet some lad in the, like, especially now with all the funding that the GB athletes get. Even if you knock some spark outs, you're still not going to you're not going to take their place, because they've been paid 30 grand a year by Sport England, because they can't justify putting me in their place when they've already spent 30 grand at least on the kid. So it's almost impossible. So you got to be very good at a very young age, get into the system very early. And then, whereas me, I was better as a senior than I was a junior. So maybe that's why it never went my way really in terms of the amateur boxing, because you need to be seen as one of the top boys when you're young, because that's just I'm assuming that's the best way of doing it. But yeah, when I finished boxing, I just finished it because I thought, yeah, I've been a servant to the sport. I've done the best I possibly can, and I think that's it now. And then just finished. It wasn't hard. It wasn't. I've done it for that. I've done it for that many years. I've been fighting for 15 years. It was just, I've done it, and then that's it. So.
Yeah, something I wanted to ask was, obviously the last amateur fight that you had was a defeat. Was it a decision sort of out of frustration, and then again you mentioned there a lack of opportunities that were coming your way?
No, well, my last fight I knew was my last fight anyway. Predominantly because I was boxing a lad called Zach Parker, who was one of the top lads in the country. He probably didn't get the credit he probably should have done and been on the GB squad and stuff. But he's now ranked number 2 in the world by the WBO as a professional. So anyway, me and him, I boxed him in his own town, his backyard. And I knew, even if I did really, really good, and even if I beat the kid, it's very unlikely I'm going to beat the kid. I actually did have a very good fight with the lad. It was a very, very close fight and very competitive. And yeah, I lost. But even if I'd have won, which I knew wasn't going to happen, even if I did really well and thought I'd have won, it wasn't going to happen. So I knew that was my last fight. And it's funny enough, my coach now, Steve Woodvine, was actually there that night. He wasn't my coach at the time. He was a coach for another lad. I was boxing for a different club. And he knew I had the wrong attitude going into the fight. He knew that I knew I was going to lose because we spoke beforehand. and he just knew my mentality. It was there. My mentality was there to fight. I just knew. I've been there that many times where you smash. You do your best. You think you've won, and you don't. And I'd had enough of it, really. So, yeah, it was a strange one.
So after that fight, then into teaching, is that something you now enjoy? And how did you find it adjusting into such a specialised sort of career?
Yeah, so I was doing my PCT for 2 years. So I was at Stafford College as a student, and that's how the career came about. One of the managers there watched me do this presentation, thought I was really good, and said, listen, she was a lovely person as well, Jill Moss, and she just said, listen, if you want to be a teacher, get a very good grade in your last year at uni, and I'll get you placements here. So that's how that happened. And then, yeah, I was doing the PGC alongside the boxing, the amateur boxing. And then, yeah, it's been easy really in terms of doing the teaching and the boxing. It's just, I do it part-time now, the teaching. So it balances well. It's easy. I can get it sorted. I mean, the job can be hard at times, make no mistake, it's hard. And it's hard to balance things. But, yeah, I can manage it pretty much. I can manage it well, at least.
And it's something you now enjoying. You mentioned earlier that you see some students now who probably had the same sort of mindset or attitude as you did, where you could do the work. It was just maybe a case of, I'm not going to say motivation, but just getting them and finding out how they tick.
I think the most important thing as well is just not knowing what you're going to. I mean, the hardest I ever worked in my educational life, even when I was at university, was when Jill Moss said to me, get that good grade, I'll give you a teaching career. Up until that point, I still went through the motions, even as a university student. It's because I had no direction in terms of where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. I didn't have a clue. When she gave me that path, that's when I suddenly was like, right, I need to graft my balls off it, just because I've got something at the end of it. Whereas I think a lot of students, it's crazy. I mean, when I do interviews now, I'm interviewing 15-year-old students and saying, have you got an idea of what you want to do in the future as a career? And that's a stupid question to ask, because how the hell do you know what you want to do at the age of 15? But some of them know. And it's the ones that know, the ones that work really hard and do amazing at college. I think it's the ones that don't know what they're doing and have no real direction. They're just going through the motions and just flowing through the system, and just like I was really. So I think it's giving them goals and careers to work towards. And I think that's the best way, really, giving them the light at the end of the tunnel to focus on, like with anything, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're there, you're full-time, and you're teaching, you reach the age of 27, and then a decision comes to put the gloves back on. What was the build-up to that decision, and did you keep sharp still in terms of training whilst you come away from the sport?
I still trained. I didn't train boxing as much. I still did stuff on the bike and stuff. I did do that, but I was enjoying just looking good and going to the gym. But I think what it was for me, I saw a lot of lads who I'd beat as an amateur go on to do really good things in the pros. And I officially beat these kids. I beat them. They went on to win British titles. One of them went on to win the world title. Like and another lad won the English title. There was probably 8 fighters that I'd beat that went on to really, really good things as a professional. And then just seeing that, I thought, I've beat these guys. Do you know what I mean? I've beat them. And they've gone on to do this. Could I turn over and potentially do it? But what always really put me off was the reason I wanted to get signed by Frank Warren or one of these big promoters is because when you're a small hall fighter, which essentially what I was from a whole career, professional boxing career, your whole career depends on if you can sell a ticket or not, if people want to come watch you fight. So this is the horrible side of professional boxing. You can be a fantastic fighter, but if people don't watch you fight, you're most likely not going to do very well, because the promoters only have you there because you're making their money. And I never really had many people watching me fight. I probably had 5 people that came to watch me fight. In contrast that to the 785 people that bought tickets off me for my last fights, and it sold out completely. I couldn't sell anymore. It's a bit weird. But anyway, I was very lucky that on my debut, I had about 60 people go, which isn't a lot. They want you to have about 100 people. So I thought, 60 is good, it's okay, but I need more. But usually what happens is people sell loads on the first fight, then it just goes down each fight. until the person usually just retires and he just finished because they think, well, I'm not getting a fight because I can't sell tickets and blah, blah, blah. But I'm fortunate that it went the complete opposite way and it's gone bloody brilliant, like more than I could have ever imagined. So it's weird. It's weird because I said to my missus, listen, give me 3 years. If I haven't done anything by the end of 3 years as a professional fighter, I'll retire. Because in my eyes, if you haven't done something in the end of 3 years, well, you're probably not going to do something in the fourth. And it's a bit weird because my next fights will be within days of my 3rd anniversary of becoming a professional fighter. It'll be my first fight as a Frank Warren fighter as well on BT Sports. So it's weird. It's very weird how it's gone. But I've got to be honest, I never knew it would happen, but I always envisioned that it would happen. Because if you didn't turn pro, if I didn't have that in my mind, I don't think I'd have ever turned pro anyway. But yeah, so yeah.
Something I've just picked up on there is that you seem very clear and razor focused on what you want, and something that's really just sort of stuck with me there is that you're saying you were going to give yourself 3 years, and if you weren't going to achieve anything within that 3 years, then you know that was the time to hang up again. But why the 3 years and why the razor sharp focus? What is it that drives you to do something within that period?
I think 3 years is just a good time frame for anything. Like if you dedicate, well, there's things that need a lot more time than that, but I know what the game's about. I know by the time your third year, well, if the lockdown hadn't happened, I'd probably had about 12, 13 fights now. But I don't know. I think I said 3 years to my missus because it's a long enough period of time for me to see if I can do something in the sport. And that's pretty much it, really. And then I could just reassess as it went along. If I was doing well, then obviously I can extend that time, which is what's happened. But I think I just picked 3 years because I thought that's just a good time period. And if I haven't done something by 3 years, I'll be 30. Well, I'd say 31. So I don't think I'm going to do anything else after that. So that's why I do. No real method to it other than it just seemed a good time frame.
Since becoming a professional, then 10 straight wins and 2 via knockout. What has changed this time round? Would you say you're more determined to succeed, having seen others that you beat previously go on to bigger things?
No, nothing's really changed really in terms of me and Steve, like my coach, we worked together from day one as a professional. So I don't think I've changed anything other than I just work harder. Like I work harder, I work a bit longer because I've got more free time now. Thank you to my sponsors because they allow me to do that. And yeah, I don't change anything other than just to keep working hard. We work on things that like my strengths and weaknesses and that. But I don't change anything now other than we up the level of sparring. So we need to spar the best kids in the country now because I'm going to be fighting the best kids in the country.
One thing I want to touch on, and I think it's well known that obviously in boxing it's a well-disciplined sport, and it's something that's important within your chosen career. You mentioned you're working as a teacher, you train 5 times a week, and you also have a partner and a young daughter. How do you fit it all in, and how do you stay so disciplined in all of those different lanes?
I don't know. I've got a mint partner, Louise. She's amazing. She helps me out with everything I need to do. Keeps me very organised, within reason anyway. But yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just staying on top of things. Like if you want to do something, you'll do it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like when people they say, "Oh, I hate being overweight." Well, you don't really, because if you really hated it, you'd do something about it. I don't care who you are. Okay. So it's like if you really want something, you'll do whatever you can to achieve it. Whether it's sacrificing time here and there, or I really don't know. If you like me, I'm the hardest working lazy person you'll ever know. In terms of, if I love something and I want to do it, I will work so hard you won't believe. But if I don't care about it, I will never do it. I need to finish this kitchen. My missus painted it the other day, and I said, I'll finish that. But I just can't be bothered, so I don't do it. I do need to finish it just a little bit. I need to touch up. But it's what it is. If you want it enough, you'll do it. Like, and I can't really say how you do that, because you just do it. You set time aside. You go for a run in the morning before work. You finish work. You do training after work. you come home before your daughter's in bed, and then you do what you need to do. Like, it's just getting that balance between the things. But I can't say how you balance it. You just got to come with a plan yourself.
Yeah, I guess then it's more of an intrinsic sort of motivation of, and I think you've summed it up quite perfectly there. Is if you want it, then you'll go out and wait for it, and if it isn't, then you won't. Now, you mentioned in your last fight, you acquired a bit of a following from the Stoke faithful, and going into your fight with Tom Stokes for the Midland area title, there was quite a following, and you were quoted saying every time you threw a combination, the crowd went wild. How much of an edge does that give you in a closely contested fight?
Oh, it's incredible. Well, that one was my 7th fight, that one. The Midland Town was my 7th fight. The last one was my 10th one when I fought for the IBO Continental title, but against Christian Shenbury. But the one with Tom Stokes, yeah, it was incredible. Like, it was, you get like a second win, like every time you throw a shot, the place erupts. So it's weird, you just get that sort of, that non-stop energy. That was a fight where I was in really good condition. Because I remember sitting down the end of round 6, and I just thought, I feel amazing. I don't feel tired at all, even though I've been working rock hard. Whereas I could see my opponent, Tom Stokes, was sort of fading a little bit. Very strong lad. But again, the crowd played a massive part in that. And that's what I think will be a bit weird in the next fight, in the fact that there will be no crowd there. And I'm gutted about that, because they're the reason I'm in the position I'm at now, even though I'm a good fighter, is because of my support. And to not have them there on the big stage is going to be, it'll be disappointing. It won't affect my performance, although they do have a positive impact. Because, like you say, I'm very intrinsically motivated anyway. But I just miss seeing the guys there. I miss the atmosphere. Obviously, it's something that's very special.
Can that then have, a possibility of really intimidating your opponent as you walk out, or they walk out to a backing of nearly 800 people?
Oh, yeah. Well, for the King's Hall, I'd sold just short of 800 myself, but in total there's 1,300 that were there, and they were not a single person left the venue. So, and they were all singing. So it's very intimidating. And that's the benefit that my opponents will have next, in the sense of they won't have that kind of crowd there. But I think as well, they'll hear me shots clearer on the TV, like the judges and stuff. They'll hear me jabs landing, where normally the shots are drowned out by the crowd. You can't, my jabs are hitting, you won't hear them as much. Whereas when you're in that nice, quiet studio, I made a mistake. I will miss the crowd and my friends and my supporters and stuff, because not many fighters have that atmosphere. So, yeah, but I'll be fine.
So your most recent fight, and obviously the one prior to the lockdown at the beginning of March, was against Christian Shenbury that you mentioned. How do you prepare for a fight like that, Nathan? What does your average week look like leading up to a fight?
So Mondays and Tuesdays for me, where I'm at the boxing gym, and they're my hardest days of the week, where me and Steve, Steve sets up the workouts for me and stuff, usually shadow boxing, sparring, bag work, hard circuits, and that just progressively builds up as the weeks go along, and the sessions get longer and harder, and it is brutal. It's brutal. It's hard work, but Steve gets me in amazing shape, and I am in the best condition. Each fight I've got better. So each fight I've got in better condition. So we just keep building on what we've done before. But it's having that mix between. So I train 5 days a week, mix between strength sessions on a Monday and Tuesday, Monday and Thursday in the morning. I'll do running sessions on the other days, shadow, whatever I need to do. But it's full. I'm trained 5 days a week, twice a day I train essentially. The weekends I'll try to get. I'll do now. We'll start doing the hill runs on the Sunday, so I'll train 6 days a week essentially. But yeah, it's full on. It is full on.
Quite physically demanding, and how important is recovery in that process then Nathan, with such an intense regime?
Yeah, it is very important. It's just making sure, obviously, you get the sleep in. I don't really do that much in terms of recovery. I don't do all like the cryotherapy and ice baths and all that kind of stuff. Mainly because I just don't. I do love a sauna. I love a sauna, but because this bloody lockdown and stuff, the gyms can't open, so there's no bloody sauna. Yeah. So I've had one sauna in the last 10 months, I think it is 11 months. So I'm gutted about that. But I mean, the sauna's mint. I love the sauna, but yeah, I just eat well and I've got Wednesdays and Fridays I have off from work. So if I do need an easy day, I can have the easy day on them days. It's just work balance it out.
Something I wanted to speak about, and I know we spoke about this off air, is that not many people knew heading into your last fight that you lost your dad 8 weeks before the fight. And, you know, with losing your dad, did that derail the prep in any way? Or in fact, did it motivate you more to go on and achieve?
No, one of them is a weird one just because a bad scenario and stuff what happened. But for me, like, it was the day after my dad died that I got the message for the Midlands title fight from my manager, because he didn't know my dad died. But I just replied straight away. He said, yeah, get me on. Because as far as I'm concerned, you just have to crack on with things. Like, it's hard. Yeah, make no mistake, I'll cry my eyes out. Emotionally, it was hard. But if I hadn't have had that fight and won that Midlands title, I would not be in the position I'm at now. Because it was from that 7th fight that the crowd was amazing. And then the 8th, 9th, 10th just built up off that. But I never won that title, never had that fight, I wouldn't be signed by Frank Warren now. 1,000,000%. I make no 1,000,000% that wouldn't have happened. And for me, it's just, I've never missed a beat in boxing. I've always been very dedicated to it. And I'd hate to think, because my dad died, I'm not saying listen, if someone is affected by someone passing away, maybe I'm just a very strong guy mentally. Maybe, I don't know. I just think to myself, I had an objective to do and nothing was going to stop me from doing it, even my dad passing. So, but again, I can't teach someone else to do that. It's just, my missus says I'm cold, I'm not. I cry at films, I cry when I see E.T. and I watch DOI, SOS, do you know what I mean? I cry my eyes out. I am an emotional person, but I can also switch off to certain things. And that's just probably, and I like to say, I'm born with it, but my dad couldn't switch off things. He suffered massively mental health, and that's obviously why he passed away eventually. But I've just grown up watching things and thinking, how do I don't do what they've done, i.e. my dad or whatever. And I've just learned from the mistakes they've made. And I just like to see myself as not a role model as such, but I like to think, if Nathan can do it, do you know what I mean? I can do it as well. So, not inspiration, because that's a bit strong. But if I can do it, the other guys can do it, do you know what I mean?
I'm sure it is inspirational, Nathan. You know, to go through that secret heartbreak and then come out of it with a unanimous decision over 10 rounds against Chambry, a massive following rowing you on, and ultimately your walkout song getting your national recognition in terms of Delilah. How much more bittersweet was that victory then, going into that fight and then being named the champion?
Yeah, it was amazing. Just because, like I said, because that one happened. Was it 2009? I think it's 2019. That one was. So, like, yeah, I had this vision in my head, like sitting in the changing rooms after the fight, just sitting, just having a sigh of relief and sitting on the chair and just thinking, yeah, I've won it. Like, do you know what I mean? Because that's what I was thinking all the way through. Obviously, I'd say it was stressful when my dad died, because obviously I'm doing things I'd never done before, organising the funeral, and then being at the funeral 4 weeks before the fight, and being I like to think that I was a strong lad at my dad's funeral. Made sure people felt welcome when they were there. It's a bit weird to have a smile on your face when you're at your dad's funeral. I was upset there, but I don't ever want people feeling upset when they're around me or having anything negative. So I do like to think I'm a quite positive person. But yeah, like, just winning the title was just mint, because we did go through a lot, me and my missus and me coach and everyone, just in the build up to it. But yeah, if I'd have lost the fight, because I lost it, not because my dad passed away. But fortunately, I didn't lose the fight, I won. And then we went on to bigger and better things as we went along. So yeah, it's been good. Not good that my dad died, but what we done. Yeah.
No, I understand. And listen, thank you for speaking so frankly about that. And you've recently been signed with Frank Warren. How big is that for you in terms of your career progression?
Oh, it's massive. It's the biggest thing. It's the biggest thing that's ever happened to me in my sporting life. So obviously, as I said before, getting signed by Frank Warren was the main objective growing up. Never happened, but then, thanks to my supporters and so on, and obviously my performances winning, that's eventually happened. And now it means I'm on the big stage, I'm fighting on TV, and if I keep winning, there's some great things that we could potentially do in the future. in certain venues and so on. But again, it's pointless having those objectives and goals if you don't keep winning. So I've just got to keep focusing on each fight as we come along, keep winning, and just seeing what Frank Warren can do with me.
I mean, for me, who's never been experienced or been in that scenario, you fought live on TV before. How do you focus going into that fight, knowing that there's potentially thousands or hundreds of thousands of people watching that fight?
Yeah, it's weird. When I was boxing on TV, not for 1 second did I even think about someone was watching me at home. I really do enjoy it. Like, I'm quite, well, you can see from the walkout, I'm quite an extroverted person anyway, so I can thrive in those scenarios. I'm okay. But the only thing with that fight, for the BT Sport fight, where I boxed when I wasn't signed by Frank Warren, essentially I was the live float. So what happens is a live float, you've got the scheduled TV slots. If someone gets knocked out, well, then that scheduling's been shortened. So you need to fill in. And that was probably the most stressful fight I've ever had in my life, because they said, you've got to be ready for 6:30. I was like, what? They told me I was going to be ready for I was going to be the after 8 p.m. float. So I was like, 6:30, so my guys aren't even here yet. There was like 220 people coming down the M6. And they haven't even arrived. And then, fortunately, I didn't fight at 6:30. We eventually boxed just before the world title fight. So I got like a great spot. I boxed at, I think it's like 8:45, something like that. And yeah, it was, but that show and that fight was at the end of a hard year. I'd boxed the show when, it was the same year that my dad had passed away. I'd just come off the back of a 10-round fight for another title. And I had a 10-round fight with Surgeon while we were forced to the Olympics. So when I reached that fight, I was a bit flat. I was flat. I still stopped the lad. I got my third knockout with that one. But I stopped him. But I was very flat. So that wasn't my best performance. But it was good. We had an amazing time. My Stokies, we did take over the arena. And no doubt we'll bloody take over a bit more in the future. But in the meantime, we've just got to see what's happening with these bloody crowds.
I mean, Nate, I'm really respectful and grateful that you've given up some of your time this evening. I know you're a busy man. And before we head into the quick fire question round, I just want to ask, what does the future hold for you now? And is there clear focus going out of this lockdown of what you're going to achieve?
Yeah, so for me, the short-term goal is to become the British champion. Who for that, Denzel Bentley's the current British champion. He's a fantastic hard puncher. But who knows? I've just got to keep winning the fights. Get this next fight out of the way. It should be announced very soon in terms of the official date. And then, yeah, just take each fight as it comes. But it's pointless thinking I'm going to be the British champion, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that if I don't beat the next person. So I'll just keep beating whoever they put in front of me, or make sure I beat whoever's put in front of me, and see what happens. But the goal is to become the British champion by the end of 2021. So if I can do that, then that's the first objective out of the way. And then just see what Frank Warren can do with me. I haven't got a clue yet, but I'm sure he's surely got some good plans.
Fantastic. Lastly then, what advice would you give to any aspiring boxer or sports person listening to this episode?
What was it? If you're young, just don't specialise in one sport. Do as many as you can, just enjoy it. If you're very talented in a certain sport, then yeah, maybe focus a bit more in that aspect. But I think as a young adult, a youngster, you should be focusing on being good at everything, not being good at one particular thing, because I think it sets you up better for when you eventually do focus on one thing, if that's your objective. So do play badminton or football, or loads of different things are going to challenge you in different aspects of your physical fitness. And then, and for any parents out there, don't push your kids like too hard. You should push them, absolutely. But when you see like 12-year-old kids that are in elite status, you can't be elite at 12 years old. I don't care who you are. And even when you're like me now, I'm counted as elite. Well, you're not really. You're still working rock hard to get better. But I think, yeah, just if you've got a drive and you've got a goal, just keep working towards it. But be as good as you can in loads of different things. And then as you get older, then focus into one thing. But I've waffled on a bit much in that, so I didn't get a clear cut thing in there. But just yeah, I don't know. Do the best you can, whatever you're doing, but just be good at loads of things, and then it should help you fundamentally when you go into the one thing that you want to do life.
I love that, and I certainly love the thing on elite sports at 12 years old. That's something that I'll take away from that. A little bit of a quick fire question round now, where we get to put you on the spot a little bit, and maybe you get to dig out a few friends or name drop. So who's your best friend in boxing?
In boxing? So like Dan Hewitt's one of my best friends. He's involved in terms of boxing TV. He does like he runs a boxing page. He's doing very well. He's interviewed some of the best fighters in the country and stuff. Well, in the world, sorry, not the country, the world. So we've been very good friends from a very young age. In boxing, it's weird. Like Luke Catchy, my teammate, Steve Woodvine, my coach, with him, and Cole Johnson, they're all my best mates, because we were all together all the time. So in boxing day, my best mates. So Luke Catchy, Steve Woodvine, and anyone who's ever really involved with me in boxing, yeah, they're all my top pals. I can't really say my best.
Okay.
Toughest opponent was Tom Stokes for the Midlands area title. So yeah.
Who's been the best trainer you've witnessed?
I'd say Steve Woodvine, my coach. I think the effort he goes into his fighters and how he lives and breathes the sport, for me, he's the best that I've seen in person.
What's been your best moment in the sport to date?
Winning the RBO title, having there's two here. So having the Kings all sold out, coming out to that, doing that, but most importantly was getting signed by Frank Warren. That was a dream of mine. So that was the most important one.
Slight difference on this then. What's been your biggest wow moment?
In terms, what, if anything, or
in the sport, and anything where you've
just walking out for the last one, 1,300 people, not a seat spare. No one could get in. It was that packed. And just walking out on the stage and everyone singing Delilah. That was like a bit surreal. So I almost can't remember it. The only reason I remember it is because I've seen videos, but it's almost like I wasn't there. It's very weird. So that was a very surreal wow moment.
Okay. Who's been your biggest role model or influence in the sport?
Like Joe Calzaghe growing up for me. Joe Calzaghe is one of my idols. So yeah, Joe Calzaghe. And obviously my dad as well. He's my biggest role model, and he got me into the sport. And yeah, so Joe Calzaghe in terms of athletes, but my dad in terms of a role model. An amazing role model, in fact.
Fantastic. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh God, I hate that. I'm bad at this. I can't. 3 words. Always bloody happy. I'll go for that. Yeah, I'll go for that.
I'll take that. I like that. And the final question: is there anybody you would recommend or like to hear on the podcast?
Who we go for? I think there's a cool athlete I've seen on Instagram. Is Jasmine Sawyers? She's like a long jumper for GB, or triple long jumper. I think she'd be great. I think it'd be good to get some of my guys like Luke Hatchie, Cole Johnson, and so on. Like, essentially, my teammates think they'd be great to have on the podcast, even if you had them collectively to their stories. Because yeah, I think they're great fighters. I think they'd be great to have on as well. Because they've got the following that I have as well.
Superb. That's something I might hit you up offline with, maybe organising at a later date. You'll be glad to know that's the quick fire questions over, mate. And I just want to say thank you again, because I understand that we're in a lockdown and there's other things that we can be doing, and for you to take the time to speak to us here at PCT, it's been an absolute pleasure and honour to speak to you. We want to wish you all the best moving forward. We'll follow your journey very closely and hope you and the family stay safe during these uncertain times.
No, I massively appreciate your time, Mark. So thank you for having me on, mate, and take care of yourself. I'll just crack on.
Super, mate. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Nate, and we look forward to catching up soon.
Top man. Thank you very much, mate. All right, bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Hello, we are Tile Central UK, local tile stockist here on Trentham Trade Park, Stanley Matthews Way. Our opening hours are 8 till 5 in the week and Saturdays till 12.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy the content that we're trying to bring to you. Don't forget, new episodes will be released every Monday. You can find us on the iTunes Store, Spotify, And if you want to see the video, you can see it on our YouTube channel, PCT Football Coaching.